Freezing upper air temperatures want to sweep down to the Gulf. We continue to see a snow signal for the Plains, Ohio Valley, and Midwest. And temperatures are heating up out west. It's November 3rd, 2025. Let's get into the weather updates. This is what feels like temperatures could be to kick off next week. We see low 30s and high 20s trying to touch the Gulf. And those freezing feels like temperatures pushing down into Texas. And with this cold air could come some severe weather and snowstorms, so let's jump into the latest model updates. All right, we're going to start off with our latest GFS. We currently do have some moisture running up the East Coast and some cold air diving into the upper Midwest towards New England. We move forward in time. This is getting into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look what's happening here. We have a little bit of a ridge and zonal flow setting up across the state. So many of us from the West Coast to the East Coast are actually going to see above average temperatures throughout the week. A lot of that's going to change, though, as we get into the weekend. Here's us getting into Saturday. More cold air trying to sink into the northern plains, upper Midwest, and then out towards New England. And the Northwest finally gets a break from that flow of moisture it's going to see all week. Getting into late Saturday, this is when we could see a severe threat setting up here along the eastern seaboard. And here comes our trough trying to dig down into the eastern United States, really into the plains and out east. Now, models don't agree exactly how amplified this trough is. I've been talking about it, but they all see this happening. They all see a snowstorm up north and the potential for some severe weather along the frontal boundary of this system. There's a very high chance that we're going to get snow somewhere up to the north. There's a very high chance that we're going to get freezing air very far south. My biggest question looking at this latest update is how much cold air actually sinks in behind the system as this trough tilts and moves off into the northeast, because you could actually end up getting some low elevation snow into the mid-Atlantic and along the New England coast, not just up in the higher elevations and higher latitudes. So we'll see what the Euro does here, but again, this is still showing. We see it on the Canadian GFS and Euro on all of our models. Now, while this trough is digging into the east, look at this ridge out west. This is well above average air, well above average. And this is what's going to be kicking off next week. So as we get into next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, drastic difference between the east and the west coast. We have some snow flying around out east and a lot of heat and dry air out west. Moving forward a little bit farther in time, now again, this is getting towards the end of the model, but we do see another storm system trying to dig down up there through the Pacific Northwest, down into the Rockies, and then potentially we have another severe threat out here, although again, we need to wait a little bit for these models to update. Quickly looking at our Euro, same thing. Over the next few days, some cooler air moving into the northern upper Midwest, New England, some moisture moving up the eastern coast. We get this big warm up from the west to the east coast and lots of moisture funneling into the northwest. That's what's going on during the weekdays. Getting into Thursday, Friday, there's that low pressure system pushing into the northeast. This is going to be cold rain for coastal New England and maybe a little snow flurries up in the mountains up there in Vermont and New Hampshire. And then into the weekend, the Euro continues to see the same exact system that the GFS sees. Here comes all this cold air diving down into the plains, pushing out east. Lots of cold air sinking down from the north into the Ohio Valley, into the mid-Atlantic, into New England. Do we see this snow get down into low elevations? We're going to see it in some areas. How much? We're not sure yet, but this snowstorm's happening. Snow totals and the exact location of where the snow falls, we want to get a little bit closer. We want to be at least at a minimum 3 to 4 days out. So I would say as we get into Wednesday, Thursday this week, we'll be able to kind of drill down on the actual snow forecast for this system. And again, ridge building out west. I mean, I like seeing the Euro and the GFS agree, out here at this range, 160 to 200 hours. Anything after this, of course, we get towards La La Land, but agreeing in this range and consistently showing the snowstorm on every single run, like I said, it's going to happen. We just need to get a little bit more details on it. All right, moving forward, we actually see a lot of heat building up in the plains and out east on the Euro. So it doesn't really want this second system to dive in and bring another round of cold air. I disagree with this. I do think we'll have another blast of cold air and some sort of a snowstorm setup in mid-November. It is typical of models to jump around once you get past 200 hours from run to run. So we'll see what happens as we get into our 12 and 18Z today. But I think they're kind of going to flip back to that November winter pattern that we've been talking about. So what's causing this major cold blast next week and potential snowstorm for some of us out east? Well, again, look what's happening up to the north. Lots of Greenland blocking. So our cold air trough's going to dive down and it's going to kind of get stalled out here. You can see it trying to dive down here and joining up with some energy that's moving in from the northwest, and it kind of starts to spin here. It can't go north, it can't go east, so it's not in a hurry, and that's going to potentially allow, again, for some of these storm systems to move up the coast and grab onto this cold air, allowing for, like I said, some low elevation snow early in the season for some of these areas that usually don't see it this early in November. Taking a look at our latest European extended ensemble snow coverage for the next 46 days, at least what it expects. One area I do find interesting is it is expecting 4, 5, 6 inches potentially along the coast before your astronomical winter starts. So we're talking New York City, Philly, Baltimore, DC. Of course, this is just kind of a guesstimate, but it's still looking very aggressive. It's still looking like it wants to be a lot more of a wintry winter up front. And I know a lot of people have seen snow droughts out here over the last 4 or 5 years. So this is promising from the European extended ensemble. I wanted to touch on our teleconnections. This is our Arctic oscillation, and it wants to go quite negative for a while. When you have a negative AO, that typically means that cold Arctic air air from the north is trying to sneak down into the states. And that combined with the negative NAO, which we have here, signals a very, very cold and potentially stormy pattern out east. I talk about the negative NAO all the time, negative North Atlantic oscillation. That's when we have a lot of that Greenland blocking, so cold air can sink in from that negative AO, kind of get stuck there, and enhance our winter storm pattern out east. We do see this ridge of heat that we have setting up out west maybe try to let up as we get into the third week of November. This is our PNA, Pacific North American oscillation, and it's trying to go negative here at the end of the run. This is the ensemble, not the deterministic, so maybe we do get a little bit of a let up from that heat mid to late November out west. This is where our latest GFS run expects snow over the next 7 days. It's giving a chance for some snow potentially down in southern Minnesota through portions of Iowa, maybe even into Chicago and Milwaukee. You can see here Michigan's getting some love, northern Indiana, portions of Ohio, and then up and down here through the Appalachian Range and inner New England. And the northern Rockies is going to continue to have that snow piling up in the higher elevations from that consistent moisture funneling in from the west. Our European-like snow flurries up through the northern plains and upper Midwest, and maybe some decent snow in northern Indiana and Michigan. And look at northeastern Ohio, western PA, maybe even Pittsburgh, and then up and down the Appalachian Mountain Range and inner New England. We're seeing snow show up in some similar areas to the GFS, but they can't completely agree on the region or totals just yet. Our latest Canadian model run likes the thought of a lot of snow into Minnesota and then central to northern Wisconsin, and even some heavy snow up and down the coast of Maine. Looking at the Canadian 500 millibar height anomaly, watch as we get into December. Notice what's happening out here, and I'm seeing this model trend in a lot of different areas. We have an Alaskan ridge trying to build. Again, Alaskan ridge builds, this can really disrupt our stratospheric and tropospheric polar vortex, allowing cold air to squeeze down into the states. We see that signal here in December, and it really grows in January. I'm starting to think January may actually be a lot colder than expected. Originally, I was thinking maybe just to kick off January, it's cold, and then we start to see those temperatures go back to normal and warm up as we get towards the end of the month. I don't know though, because this is some high confidence in an Alaskan ridge in January, and you can clearly see what that means. That means troughing, very cold air trying to push down back into the states. Maybe we stay cool through January. I just thought this was an interesting signal, and I wanted to show you guys. Here's a look at our 7-day precipitation forecast, and look at the Northwest. That's a lot of rainfall and a lot of snowfall for the high elevations. Really not much going on out east. I mean, we have a little bit of rainfall here through the Ohio Valley. The only real area to note is inner New England. We could actually see a decent amount of moisture here over the next 7 days. Some of this may actually be snow. I know most people are thinking hurricane season must be over, but the GFS is actually seeing a potential cyclone forming down here in the central southern Caribbean. Right now, this is about 200 to 220 hours out, so no one needs to be concerned. Next model run, we may not even see this system show up, but if you were to believe the latest GFS run, it would try and form and then move up into the Gulf. This would be around mid-November, November 15th, 16th, and potentially threaten a landfall for the states. Although, like I said, this is way too early. We'll see if we start getting some model consensus on this. Right now, I only see it showing up on the GFS. Not overly concerned, but remember, hurricane season does last through November, so it's not impossible to get landfalling systems mid to late November. I'll keep my eye on this and I'll keep you updated. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I upload content like this every single day, and I live stream every single day as well to try and answer all of your weather-related questions. If you do like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified every single time I upload. I typically do upload a forecast or outlook like this every single morning, and then a secondary video in the evening. I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.